This is probably going to be the most cringiest video I am ever going to make. We'll see. But going back to when I worked construction, I was about 22 years old. I just started, and I remember having a conversation with one of my old friends from high school, and we were just updating each other on our lives. And I told her, yeah, I'm working construction now. That's what I'm doing during university. And she looked at me like, construction? You? You working in construction? And I was just like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And she was like, you don't seem like the person who would do that kind of job. It just doesn't seem like you. And I get what she was saying. She was saying that I don't fit the archetype of the guy who is, one of those big, strong men who goes and works construction. And I understood the message behind it, but she said, if it was IT, something in computers, maybe sales, I could see that. Okay, but construction, that's interesting. Let's put it that way. And honestly, when I started out, that's exactly my thoughts. I thought, I'm not built for this. I was working there for probably the first 3 months. I was in pain 24/7. I know anybody who's worked construction as a guy who started off, you probably felt this too. It's just you're in pain the entire time. Or at least that was my experience. Anything I was doing, I just thought this is literally impossible. Like I would get way too tired. My muscles would feel like they're just ripping out of me. It felt impossible. But it just so happens that I was already familiar with casting spells on myself. And before you guys say, here we go, right? I'm talking about autosuggestion, which I've actually read inside of a book. But autosuggestion is basically like hyping yourself up. You tell yourself what you want to believe about yourself. No, I wasn't that guy standing there and just pumping my chest and saying, you can do this, you can win. But it was something along those lines. In my head, I would keep on saying every time I was going through my job and, or just around the clock, I would keep saying, I am built for this. If anyone can do it, it's me. I can do construction. In fact, I could probably handle it far better than most people. I'm actually built for this. And I would keep on repeating these lines, just anything that would come into my head. Anytime I felt like I faced a wall, that it's just like, there's no way I can lift that. How is this guy holding his hammer over his head and nailing something in when I can barely hold it there for 5 seconds? Like, how is this happening? Or I'm supposed to carry drywall for half the day upstairs and down the stairs. I'm just like, what is this? Like, my legs are giving out after the third sheet, right? And I would just keep on repeating, and it felt like for a second there that I was some kind of magician or like some kind of person chanting in my head the exact same thing over and over. And even after the work, like I came home some days at night before bed, I was like, I think my knees stopped moving. Like I literally could not bend my knees anymore. And I'm like, why? I'm only 19, I'm only 21, whatever age I was at the time. But I just told myself, no, this is just part of the process. This is how it goes. One day, it's not gonna hurt anymore. I will adapt. I am very adaptable, and I will push through it. And maybe this isn't something I want to do for the rest of my life because this was just a job. If anyone can do construction, it's me. If I decided that I need to go and build something, I can do it. And over time, that did the trick. Like, it wasn't sudden. Of course, it took time for the body to adapt, and it kept me level-headed all the way through. Of course, our body was going to adapt anyway, but when you say these things to yourself and you align your identity with that kind of person, like I said in the start of the video, I'm not the kind of person, or I didn't seem like the type of guy who could do construction. I just seemed a little, I don't know, someone who could do computers, someone who could be in IT, right? But I kept telling myself that, yes, I am a construction guy right now at this point in my life. That's what I am doing, and I will be great at it. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. It's not magic. It's just that your brain works in such a way where it tries to help you achieve whatever it is that you believe about yourself. You keep on saying that and you become better. Your muscles adapt, of course, over time, but so does your strategy. You know, when I started, the only thing I was allowed to do was break stuff. Like, I was the demolition guy, which also wasn't that easy. I didn't even know where to start. Like, I would just start hitting the wall and be like, why is the wall not coming down? This is going to take half the day. And eventually you learned all the weak points, and then you're doing other things, and you start, you know, they allow you to start building. And, you know, I figured out a way. This is one specific skill. If you guys know, if you've ever done this, it's trim, doing baseboards and trim. And I hated that. That was my nightmare, because no matter how well I would measure, I would do the cuts and then I would put it and it would be slightly off. I have no idea how, because you're cutting at an angle and, you know, they have to come together at a certain corner, whichever parts of the house you're doing. And it would always, there would always be a gap, or sometimes it'd be too long, so I'd make the same cut like 10 times. And I would waste so many pieces as well. And that's how it started. And I thought, this is the worst thing ever. I hate doing trim. It's so tricky, I just don't understand. And I'm not someone who's bad with math. I just didn't get why. And close to one of the last projects that I've done in construction, in fact, might have been one of the last ones, I did it so fast that my boss at the time, he thought I did something wrong, because he knows usually how I do this. It takes me forever to do it, and he knows I'm going to spend half the day doing this and that bullshit. But one of the teammates, he basically started laying down the floor, and behind him, I was supposed to start measuring all the, you know, baseboards. To put the baseboards, I needed to paint them, then do the quarter rounds, all this bullshit construction language. But the point was, I managed to do all that in just a couple hours, make all the cuts for the entire, you know, part of the house that we were doing, and do all the caulking, all the painting, all the whatever details you have to do, all the quarter rounds. And my boss came down and he's like, okay, how's it going? You're done. Why are you done? He's like, did the paint even dry? How did you paint it twice already? And I was like, I don't know, I was just working effectively. Also, I had the fan pointing that way so it would dry faster so that I could work on the other side. And I measured everything at once, and all the measurements fit perfectly. Everything was done proper. And he just checked and he was like, this is weird. I don't know what you did, but it looks good. I was like, all right, there you go. So, I don't know, that was just a proud moment where one of my weakest points, I actually made it my strength, and I was really good at it. And the point is, I do this to this day. I tell myself what I want to be or what I want to believe about myself. And so now it's very important to not deviate into too many different categories as a person. I'll tell you more on that later. But in general, right now, if I'm recording this video, I'm talking to the camera. Before I start, or maybe the entire day, I just think like a content creator. I think, okay, I'm going to make content. You know, recording a video is content. That means I am a content creator. It doesn't matter if I have 1 view or 10 views. I'm doing exactly what a content creator would do that has, I don't know, 100,000 views. And I was doing that from day one. I'm still doing this, and I will continue thinking of myself as a content creator as long as I do this. And I know it sounds weird and cringy, because it's like, okay, this guy literally just gasses himself up. But honestly, if no one else is going to cheer you on, you might as well cheer yourself on. But that's besides the point. There are actually people who support me. But what I'm saying is, just tell yourself that. Tell yourself what you want to be. Don't just be like, I want to be like that guy, or I want to, let's say your dream is to get fit. I want to be like someone who's fit. I want to be like, don't say like, just actually be it. When you're going to the gym and you're working out, you're thinking, I am a fit person. I am fit and healthy, or I am muscular, or I am a thin person. If you want to lose a lot of weight and you're telling yourself, I am a thin person, as you're running on the treadmill. As whenever you decide to eat food, depending on your goal, hey, you want to lose weight, you're sitting there thinking, I am a fit person, or I'm thin. I weigh whatever, 150 pounds. Let's say you want to weigh that much. And so you tell yourself that, and right before making your food choice, your brain is going to be like, yeah, that's not going to be what we eat. We're going to eat something better. Or we're not going to eat this meal. We're going to just have a snack. Whatever goal you have in mind, as long as you keep on telling yourself that you are that person, you don't even need to know the how. That's the best part. I'm not concerned with how I am going to achieve the particular goal. I just tell myself the goal. I am the goal. I have become the person who has the goal, who is doing the thing. And guess what? Your brain will give you plenty of ideas on how to do it. It sounds crazy, I know, but just try this. I have had way too many experiences doing this, and at first I was like, "There's no way this works. You're just telling yourself something that's already there out there. You know, it's just words." But that's not true. That's not true. It does work, and I have told myself so many ways. The same way I literally started making my first YouTube video, my first piece of content. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I admitted to myself, I have no idea. Do I just sit down, press record on my phone, and let it roll? I have no idea how to do this. But I know one thing is that I am doing this, and I am that person that makes content and uploads it to the internet. And before I knew it, my brain is like, okay, well, let me grab a camera, do this, do that, get the editing software. You need to make an account here, there, pay for this, pay for that. Boom, right? It's like suddenly you have all the ideas, all the resources you need because your brain already knows that. You don't have to sit there and think, oh, how do I have to do? Because let's be honest, so many of you guys, or so many of us as well, I can say for myself, would have been paralyzed in thought. You know those people that think of all the ideas, but they never act on any. It's just like, what is it called? Analysis paralysis, something like that. The fact that you just can't start something because you feel like you don't have enough information and you keep analyzing. Well, instead, I'm telling you, don't worry about that. Just tell yourself you are the outcome. You are the person who has done it or is doing it. And your brain will give you the how. And when you have the how, you start focusing on the process. But how you focus on the process is just by telling yourself, I am this person. You want to get jacked? Tell yourself, I am a bodybuilder. Maybe that's not your goal. Maybe you're going to be a bodybuilder for 5 years. I am a bodybuilder. Just tell yourself that. It literally doesn't matter. It's so simple, and it's so cringy to discuss this and to say this out loud, but I do this all the time, and so far, it has served me well. And one thing that it did not do is, worst case, what's going to happen? Like, what is going to happen, worst case? You're not telling yourself anything negative, right? And by the way, all these kind of things I actually talk about in my community, and I specifically teach on how to brainwash yourself or literally download a different software into your own mind so that you can operate at a different level, at a different frequency. So check it out if you want. Links in the description. And so over time, to continue from that story where I was having a conversation with my friend about doing construction, I just told her that exact thing. I said, you know what? It may look that way, but I'm someone who can do whatever I set my mind to. So if I told myself I can do construction, then I can do construction. Just watch. And that was the end of that conversation. It was very simple. Don't let anybody else tell you what you are or what you are not. You get to decide that. That's the best part. Imagine you get to decide that I am going to be this person now. That's it. Nobody can tell you otherwise. No one can tell you that you're stupid or you're not smart enough for this or you shouldn't go for that degree because actually you're more a little bit like this. You should go and do this. They can't really tell you. You are what you tell yourself you are. So one of those age-old questions, the stupidest question is, do you know who you are? Have you found yourself? What is that? I am what I tell myself I am. That's as simple as that. And I'm actually saying this because somebody asked me that the other day at work. And I was just like, I didn't even answer the question. I was just like, honestly, it's not worth defending myself and arguing. I'm just going to ignore it, whatever. But I thought about it after, like, how do you answer that question? But really, you are who you say you are, not who others tell you that you are. Because eventually, once you become that person, others around also will recognize that of you as a byproduct. So you start on the inside and you eventually show it on the outside. Anyway, thanks for watching.